Hi everyone, Jacinda here with CFS Saskatoon, Parent Program Coordinator and Educator. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a concept called serve and return for our child's brain development. So the science of serve and return originated out of research done at Harvard University's Center on the Developing Child. But much of today's information in this video comes from the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative, which is an organization and an initiative to mobilize knowledge and to create system-wide change. On their website, you can read more about what they do, and you can read more about serve and return. So what is serve and return? It's when a child reaches out to the parent or caregiver physically as well as figuratively for interaction with the expectation of receiving a response. And the caregiver responds by returning their serve in a developmentally appropriate way. So for example, making eye contact with your child, physical connection and touch, mirroring your child, reading with your child and pointing at the pictures with them, talking with your child. An important piece of serve and return is parent enthusiasm and positivity as well, in face and in body language. So why is serve and return important? It builds our child's brain architecture. What is meant by this is that basic brain structures are formed in the early years of life, age 0 to 5, and our life experiences, including our relationships to our caregivers, help to build on top of that foundation, causing more complex structures to grow. And these experiences change our brain architecture because our brains are plastic. They are changeable in response to our environment. Also important, especially in the early years, is to repeat interaction when the child requests or motions for it. So think about when you play peekaboo with your child and they want to continue it over and over, perhaps for quite a long time. This is really good for brain development because it actually is creating neural pathways in the brain. In the early years, up to about age 3, 700 brain synapses are formed per second. So if you think about this rapid development, it's really an indication of how much growth and change happens in those first years of life. And it's clear that the early years experiences are very important in a child's development. But an equally sensitive period of development is the adolescent years, age 11 to about 16 or 17. At this stage, the brain really starts to prune back its synapses. And so what stays is often what becomes ingrained in the brain. You know the saying, use it or lose it? So at this stage, serve and return interactions are also very important because they solidify positive neural pathways. Brain science also shows us that we are absolute social beings and that babies' brains develop in a social context. From the time we are in utero, we are physically connected to another human being. We're fed through our mother's umbilical cord. We also recognize our mother's voice in utero, and often our fathers, especially if they are regularly talking and singing to mom's belly. Infants recognize their mother's face by 1 day old, and by about 6 weeks, babies smile at their caregivers. And by 3 months old, babies have imitative behavior. So again, our early childhood experiences with our caregiver really does shape our child's skills and capacity to grow. I also want to add that the caregiver environment in which our kids grow includes their physical environment. So things like access to nutrition, to warmth, and to physical safety. The stress levels in their environment also have an impact on development. And there are other social interactions as well, so other family members, other children, and other supports, including early childhood educators and teachers. And when it comes to the learning environment, a child's give and take relationships is also crucial. If it is sensitive and responsive, children develop strong language, social, emotional, and executive functioning capacity. Dr. Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain can help us understand this more. And this is a great little model we can show our kids and help them understand how their brain works. They really love this little hand model. So the first to develop is our brainstem. And this part helps us to walk and to run and to digest our food, our basic bodily functions. Our middle brain is where our emotion center resides and is where we experience things like fear, anger, joy, and excitement. And this is what Dan Siegel calls our downstairs brain. Our higher brain, what he calls our upstairs brain, is our thinking brain. And this is where we know how to pay attention, how to regulate our emotions, and how to problem solve. This is our executive functioning brain. And it's the last part of the brain to develop. It finishes developing by the age of about 25. So when our downstairs brain gets really worked up, when we flip our lids, as he calls it, then our upstairs brain can come down and calm down our downstairs brain. We also know that children learn best when an attentive adult is engaged in learning with them. Adults can direct kids to different activities. They can pay attention to what the child's interests are and help them to build on those interests. And they can also make learning fun and creative, which is also really important for brain development. A healthy attachment to a caregiver lowers cortisol and stress levels in kids. The emotional and the behavioral is addressed in a healthy attachment relationship. Our children's attachment system is the organizer in response to danger and to safety in their environment. And of course, we all experience stressful times in our life. Now, for example, these past few months during the emergence of COVID-19. A natural disaster such as a pandemic can be traumatizing to us and especially to our kids. But parents can act as buffers for our kids in these stressful times. How we respond and react to events such as this has a direct effect on our kids' stress levels. So it's really imperative that we make sure as caregivers, we are taking care of our mental health, as well as our emotional, physical, and even spiritual well-being during this time. Now's the time to reach out and gather our supports when we're feeling depleted. And in these challenging times, serve and return can also help to buffer for our kids as well. And we can do this by giving them support for emotional regulation, by staying attentive to their needs and responding to their questions, to their curiosities, to their worries, and by providing ordered and predictable environments, which include routine and rules and consequences, as well as predictable people in their lives, such as family members, teachers, or other supports. All right, so this brings me to the end of my talk. I hope you enjoyed today's video and were able to pick out some valuable tips to help you and your family. Parents, families, stay safe out there and enjoy your serve and return tennis match. You got this.